Three. All right. So today, let's make a pact. Look at that, on the shoulders of giants. Let's make a pact. We're going to talk about the income tax we having to pay and the credibility tax. And we're going to get right into it with some current events and news. And Joe, give us a little synopsis of why we're talking about the credibility tax and some of the codes that's being broken in the community as it pertains to progress, because I know that's what is stopping progress. So give us a little idea why we want to talk about this subject.
Because what they're
Based on
doing
today's
is
events.
stupid. The whole situation is stupid, and they need to do something different because buying in and tuning into this stupidness and this foolishness, and they sharing it. I mean, I feel like I'm watching the in between, the little in between parts of the matches of WWF or something like that, man. Back in the day, was like, I mean, okay, like we see what's going on with Dr. Umar and all the other people, and we also see what's going on with people attacking, you know. First of all, like I said, the stuff's stupid, man. People like egos are being stepped on, all these things into place, just a whole lot of stupidness going on. And then when you have that don't help, and then when you have people Carmen and San Diego put together just a whole Dick Tracy team of private eyes going into, spending time researching people's backgrounds and trying to find out this real and this real and this fake, when we don't have time for that foolishness. Like that's what Professor Cartoon Jones said all the time. We don't have time for that foolishness. Like, we're in a real war with people who taking us out every day, and we wasting our time on this stupid stuff to try to say, see, I told you I was right, because ego trying to trump ego, and it's all stupid. And everybody needs to stop it, because they're still killing us.
So we still got the levels to this rule, right? We still got that rule that says, we have to put people, or we have to become a community that recognizes levels. So in that respect, when you see some of our leadership, or so whether it's self-appointed or whatever it may be, behaving in this manner and doing these things, should their credibility be attacked, and to what degree should the community respond to it? Because we still have to put them on a level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that we, by I as an individual saying, this person only deserves this much energy or whatever, but just in general having an idea of, hey, listen, the information is coming from a source that doesn't deserve to be put on a certain level of especially integrity, because I look at a character and integrity when I see some of these things happen, and it's impeding progress, and it looks like real agent-ish. Like
Right.
they don't, like they don't understand. Either they don't understand how it's impacting, or they do understand it and they're doing it on purpose. So
Right. I mean, it's almost like COINTELPRO sitting back looking like, hey, man, they keep taking our job. I mean, what you want us to? We trying to do some work. We out here trying to destroy black people, but they keep taking our jobs. Like, what we supposed to do? That's why they complaining about they getting their jobs took. That's one thing right there, doing it for them. They don't have to infiltrate these organizations and bring black people down. Gonna bring it down. The egos within the organizations is gonna bring them down. They can't, like, the individuals, they like almost like, if we get along, that'd be too much like right. And yeah, it sound good talking about it, but if we do it for real, then we'll be like, nah, never mind.
Yeah, I think ego is just, I think that goes into the way we teach and talk about history as well.
Hmm.
When we highlight these special figures as being larger than life, and kids grow up idolizing these figures and then wanting to be the next version of that figure, and then all of a sudden these people become larger than the movement, and
Hmm.
so kids are being raised with these heroes that are bigger than the collective, that are larger than the fight, and they want to be in that role too. Like every man wants a legacy. And they want to be larger than the movement as well. So you have these overinflated egos that are and we see it not just from the big players, but even from a lot of the small players that are growing into larger players, where they take opportunities where someone is just asking them a simple, basic, generic question, and they'll use it as an opportunity to attack somebody else or another group or whatever in the movement. I have my issues with other people. I have my issues with other groups. And when we behind closed doors and I'm in a group of secure friends and stuff like that, I have no problem airing that stuff out.
Hmm.
But when we get in public, like you can scroll through all my social media pages. You can scroll through all of my, I got like 200 videos on YouTube. You can scroll through all of the interviews I've done and everything else. Blog Talk or terrestrial radio. Or you can talk to anybody that's ever sat in the crowd at any lecture. I've never attacked anyone in a public forum.
Right.
Anyone, regardless of how much I hate their guts. You know, I've been beefing with several different communities for a very long time, and most people would not know that if they just listened to me. The only way they would know that is if they heard it from somebody that had a unpublic or a private conversation with me.
Right.
So I think we got to get to a point where right now it's just too much ego on all levels, and we're seeing it from just about every organization. Yeah, and I think the other part of that is we got to recognize our lanes. Like certain people are in certain lanes, and not everybody that's in a lane deserves to be a role model. And that's another thing we have to differentiate
Mm-hmm.
between. I
Mm-hmm.
understand everyone needs to be their own leader, but at the same time we need those collective leaders that are in positions to speak out and do things on a broader scale that we can't do individually. Those people need to be role models, if you will, people that other people can look up to, that children can look up to, that we as a community can look up to. So that's one type of person you need, but everybody isn't going to be in that role. There are other people that just have good information.
Hmm.
They're not role models. They shouldn't be looked at as role models. They just got good information. They're not leaders, shouldn't be looked at as leaders. They just have good information. So we and then their information might be limited in scope. They
Hmm.
might only have good information about this topic or that topic. So you listen to them when they talk about economics, or you listen to them when they talk about education, or when they talk about culture, but then you kind of tune them out when they talk about anything else. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
we just have to begin, like, there are levels to this. We got to understand where people are, where we need to put them, and then when people act out in whatever range they're in, we it's not so damaging, it's not so destructive, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. I mean, one of the first things that you do when you go to pick a group to work on team projects is you try to gauge the level of everybody's abilities. And I think, what do you
Mm-hmm.
have? You have contributors, advocates, and you have fundraisers, and I think you have one other one. But in that respect, could there let's not understate the importance of contributors, and them being able to contribute on a level that fits into the pieces of everybody else's contribution. And
Mm-hmm.
too many times when we say this person is a leader, what that equates to is that they can give us uh, information from all levels of of areas, and let's, the things that are going on within the Black community do require expertise among different levels, but let's respect the different contributors and put everybody in, as you say, Pat, in the right lane so that we can be effective. And that's not happening as cohesively as we would like it to be right now. So, and we breaking codes. We breaking codes doing it.
We're breaking all of the codes. Be honest, every last thing.
I'm talking about they just waking up. Which code I'm gonna break today? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like you said, everybody has a role to play, and people are not playing their role. And when you don't play your role, the whole team lose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when in the movie, man, that's just you got to talk, man. You look like you're in the movie with that background.
I'm just sitting there listening, I assume we're talking about the role of leadership or what be leaders in the Black community. Am I far off?
Man,
no, you're not far off.
Well, we just
know who we talking about.
We just don't have a lot of leaders. We have a lot of teachers. We don't have a lot of leaders. This is different. You can sit up in front of a classroom, or you can sit in front of an auditorium and give a nice lecture. That makes you good. They don't know, but it doesn't make you a leader. A leader is about, movement and the accumulation of, people or masses around them, moving on to a goal or destiny. And we don't have a lot of that right now. What we have is a lot of people who, glorified and, they stand in front of groups and they give, they present some productive information, but we don't have a lot of leaders.
No, we don't.
And it's I think we slap titles on things without fully understanding the ramification of it.
Absolutely.
We call things great that are mediocre. We
True.
call, we
Right.
we worry about mastery when the majority might be just be jacks. You know what I'm saying? Jacks praise instead of masters. I think we rush to judgment too soon, and something I'm going is the fact that we need to start removing the emotion from the emotion push too hard to see something that's lacking, and they want to project it onto somebody, perhaps project it prepared to handle it. But the people who, these labels and these attachments become these labels become attached to, they become so prideful and boastful that they're not going to jump up and say, well, I'm not a leader. So I'll be the first one to tell you that I don't really consider myself to be a leader at this point because, if there's a leader, then where's the following? I have a goal, I have vision, so I would consider myself a teacher, an educator of sorts. But that would be about the gist of it in terms of what you do out in the community and so forth, because you have to have the people actually moving with you. And right now there's just not a lot of that going on. Showing up at a lecture does not compute to community interaction. It does not compute to, putting together the pieces for a movement. Showing up to that behind the scenes is what computes to, whether or not you are a leader or what happens when the cameras aren't on, or you're not being recorded, or nobody's going to see. You're not going to get, you're not going to get accolades for this particular act that you're about to do. Nobody's going to know. It's going to be an anonymous act that the people are going to benefit. And when you have people who are willing to walk with you, as Patrick called them, dark workers, people who don't necessarily need the spotlight to get things done. When you have that, that's what it computes to being a leader in my eyes. And we don't have a lot of that. We have a lot of people who don't mind doing that as long as at the end of that trip or during the path to, whatever they're going, they want to be recognized and seen in a particular light as the next coming, the next this, the next that. So, we don't know a lot of the work that Dr. King might have done because a lot of it until recently wasn't chronicled. We don't know a lot of the work that Marcus Garvey may have done or Malcolm X might have done or some of the other workers, the hard workers, the majority of the Panthers who you'll never hear about. We don't know a lot of their work, but they did work and they led movements. And that's what leadership looks like when you have people who are leading, masses. We don't have that right now. What we have is a bunch of, Creflo dollars masquerading as liberators. If you want to be honest about it, but he's just better at it.
Yeah.
Well, for a jet, he's better at it.
Right.
So
yeah. Okay.
So I wanted to bring up I wanted to reiterate a couple of points that you have made, Carl, because your feed goes in and out a little bit. But I think a couple of good points that you made. Well, you made a lot of good points, but the two most important is how reactionary everybody is and how much emotion are in their reactions when responding to anything in the outside that affects the community, and then also internally some things that affect the community. Our emotions do not equate to any type of progress or discussion or debating that would lead to progress. So that's definitely something that we need to discipline. We need to have some discipline within the community to look at these codes and address issues on a platform or in an environment that is conducive for progress. I don't see any benefit when someone gets in, when the issue comes on and then they make a video about what happened, just telling their story. I remember, what happened to a time when, you had to live, a whole lifetime to write a book about, your story.
Right. People writing books at 16 now.
Oh, look what I did. I'm like, wait a minute. Say you're only 10 years old. You only how you got a book? Yeah.
Listen to too much Lil Boosie.
What you haven't lived.
Their life story.
Don't just start writing your autobiography just yet.
Man.
Give us a little context. So I think that's something that I wanted to reiterate out of those points that you had made. Regarding that, and then also that being humble. In a leadership position and doing things that don't have to be document. I believe in documenting. I just believe in how you put that out. The community has to get a more organized and concerted effort in how we begin to socially engineer within the community. So yeah, we should be discriminate about how we put out information, even when we're documenting the movement. We should hold those things very close to the chest, and then disseminate them within the community as we see fit at the right times, so that they have the right impact. And that's something that, when we talk about doing personal diary, video diaries, and written diaries, the way we even put that information out should be done strategically, as well as when we respond to any issues, any external issues that impact the community. We should do it with the intent that we want to uplift. So that means that there's some strategy that should be behind that and the mediums that we put them out on. So I think those were two great points that you have made, Carl, and I wanted to make sure that everybody got a clear picture of that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. We lack tact like a mug, man. We lack tact. It's just the way we do things. I mean, you have, like you say, you have an issue with somebody, you run to video. You run the video, just put it all out. Like even some of these groups, like you said, when you are or our plans together for our liberation, these are not things that you film and show the world. Like you shouldn't be eager to load this up to Facebook. Like if you marching through you know, you marching through the streets, y'all protecting y'all neighborhoods with your guns and stuff, cool, do that. I mean, find a better way to spread the information. I mean, this is not a popularity contest. Like we're not trying to be the most popular on the street. Like in my opinion, I think, and this is not what I'm saying is, what I'm about to say now is not going to any particular group or any particular person, but a lot of people who are trying to be the next great person, the next Malcolm, the next Martin, the next Stokely Carmichael. You know, people want to be remembered. Like I've seen, you know, I've been scrolling through social media and seeing people's posts, you know, saying, you know, how bad they want to be remembered in the annals of history. And history don't remember you because you want to be remembered. History remembers you because they don't have no choice but to remember you because you were memorable. Like the things you did made you memorable. You know, it's not, you're not gonna be remembered because to help somebody. You try, okay, I got to show everybody what I'm doing. I got to show everybody what, like that's not like that. Like that goes back to what we're talking about, that ego. Like people not being humble, people being so eager to be out there in the forefront, to be a lead, to be that next leader and have people follow them. And that's not what we need. We need to be environments where everybody has a chance to build off of one another. Of course, you're going to have some type of leadership or some type of structure, but this is not something that's just going to happen because you woke up one day and decided, I think I want to be a leader. No, it's not going to happen like that. First of all, you got to have the qualities. You have the mindset. Like leaders are made on with the qualities, but leaders are made. You have to be built into a leader. Who's teaching you how to lead? You're not going to lead just because you want to lead. Who's teaching you? And if nobody's teaching you how to lead, you're not going to be a leader. You're not going to be an effective leader. You're going to be somebody out there that's either you got blind people following you or you out there walking and ain't nobody else following you. But we have to be more aware of how we do things and why we do things and when we do things and where we do things. Running straight to the internet because you have a problem with somebody or a problem with somebody is not the answer. People just laughing like, hey man, they dividing for us. Like they're literally sit back dividing for us. Like, Tom, what are we gonna do? Like they're dividing for us. You know, I mean, that's what's going down, and we need to do something different. Time to put the egos to the side, and because we have people over here who want to be the next leader, but it's also people who are too eager to follow as well, and that needs to be addressed because you have adults to be followers of people that they don't really understand what they're saying anyway.
With us, so I mean,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Things need to change. I mean, the way we go about as a people needs to change. Like we often posting all these pictures and we're doing all these lectures and we're doing all these videos and things about slave mentalities. Then we go practice and just indulge in slave mentalities and all of the practices that come with that mentality. And we keep talking about other people and looking down on, like I remember seeing a broadcast where this one young lady was talking about the so-called ratchet people or the ratchet people and the project people and the people that they feel like not doing good or don't want to do no better. And she even went as far as saying that she believed, and talking about black people, a black person talking about black people, and she said that these people should be killed off. Kill these people off. So I'm sitting there thinking, as I'm looking at it, well, what makes you more valuable than them? So that we keep going back to. That's that lack of tact. Like we don't know what we're doing. We have most of the people who are out here doing these things. Who are your elders that you have to reach to go back and teach you? Like, I'm not trying to brag, but I got elders that sit at the feet of the elders, like Dr. Clark, Dr. Ben, Dr. Chris Wilson, all these people, and I'm just fortunate. Having elders helps maintain some of these things. If you got good elders, now, they got gray hair and long gray locks and stuff like that, and they smell like a good scent oil or something like that. They don't wear no shoes. Don't just follow that person. Like, make sure you following somebody who got sense. But there's like
They can't just smell like it.
Right, you can't just smell good. Like you got to know what you talk about. Right? Information being passed. There's no tact. We're not humble. The ego is out of control. We're messy and we too petty. And adults, one last thing. All you adults, you pass the age of like 25 and you think being petty is cool, your ass need to grow up. You need to grow up. I'm done.
I agree though.
Well,
I mean, I definitely agree.
I agree as well. And I think that everybody is too preoccupied with trying to esteem themselves. I think that we are obsessed with self-aggrandizement, doing things to get in front of a camera or doing things that are going to get us some publicity, doing things that is going to get some money in our pockets rather than doing them from our hearts. And that's one thing that I don't necessarily speak publicly on it a lot, but what I see that is very hurtful to me is that, when I see these so-called leaders, which is why sometimes y'all hear me have certain choice words for, I just think that they're not doing it from the heart. One thing that you see when you look back in history and at some of our elders who have gone on is that these people had a genuine care and love and concern for us, and that's one thing that I think that we're lacking is the genuine aspect of it. We're lacking true scholars and people who really have a care and concern about where we're moving forward. And I just think we have a lot of people that want to be prophets and preachers and just be the next Malcolm, Martin, Maya, whoever, Nelson, but they don't have a blueprint. They're not speaking off of a foundation. They just getting on social media running their mouth, or they just getting on a YouTube channel and running their mouth, thinking that what they say is so profound and that everybody is just supposed to just think whatever they say is just the greatest thing in the world, and that's just I'm not going to do that. I mean, I just think that it has to come from the heart. Whatever you do, one thing, sometimes I get into deep thought and contemplation, and one thing I always think to myself is, I wouldn't be stressing myself out and doing a lot of the stuff that I do if I didn't truly do it from the heart, because a lot of things just get on my nerves so bad. But something so I really have to sit down some time and think. Do what you do from the heart, because if you didn't, like sometimes I just want to throw my hands up, but then some tells me no, you can't do that because there's too much work that needs to be done. So I just think that we have a lot of people who are leading for self-aggrandizing purposes rather than truly doing what you do from the heart. And I think that goes to Patrick's point when he says that everybody needs to know their particular role. Whether you're spiritual or not, I am, but I believe that everybody is called to do certain things. Like God blesses you in certain areas to be able to do certain things, and to be able to help in certain professions or in certain areas of the community, to be able to walk and talk with certain people, to be able to reach a certain audience, whether that be children, um, whether that be whatever. I just think that everybody is called for a certain purpose, and the mistake that we make is when everybody wants to be out front and up front, but maybe you really weren't called to be out front and up front. Maybe you should just do what comes natural. On that point, do what comes natural to you. Don't try to of the past who we all revere and idolize now. Try after natural.
Straight up.
Right. And I agree. And I think it all goes back to, again, like everybody wants a legacy, everybody wants to remember ego, and really a failure to understand how a bunch of different things work together, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like understanding what a leader is something that is lost. You know what I'm saying? Like a leader at its core is somebody that brings people together and moves them forward to whatever goal. It doesn't matter, negative or positive, whatever. And so if you're standing in the gap, kicking people out and keeping people from coming together, then you're essentially doing the exact opposite thing of a leader.
Right.
So, even that basic understanding, and then, everybody wants to be remembered because that's all we talk about are the people that are remembered. But,
Right.
as you dig through history, you find multitudes
So
of
many
people,
people.
right, that were extremely impactful, that aren't talked about, that are barely remembered, or that aren't really remembered at all.
Right.
And so you have to come to terms with everything. You have to decide whether it's more important to be the engine or to be the driver. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's I don't think anybody is going to progress or going to be helpful or beneficial to the movement if they don't have the okayness and a willingness to accept the role of engine. Now, if you somehow become a driver, that's wonderful, but you need to be willing to accept that role in the darkness. You need to be willing to accept the role of a dark worker if you truly care. And that's the problem. Like everyone's looking. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's looking for this or that, or to be this or to be that, and nobody's being taught that it's okay to be what you are. And again, we go back to like Monica always says, people have a lot of self-esteem issues. It's running rampant. This is another offshoot of the self-esteem issues we have in the community. The ego, the pettiness, the this, that, and the third. All of that is a sign of the self-esteem issues we have, but nobody really wants to address these core issues. And then you have these other people who would, like even in terms of saying, okay, we all need to be leaders. We do. But a big part of being a leader is being a follower and knowing who to follow. Because everybody's following somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So we all do need to be a leader. That is true, because if you're a good leader, the person you're following is going to be a good leader, because as a good leader, you're not going to follow a bad leader, because that would mean that you're leading everybody behind you astray. But that critical component is missing. It's kind of like we often talk about one side of the coin, but we never talk about the other side. So we'll talk about being a leader, but we won't talk about being a follower without understanding that they're both necessary to each other. We'll talk about being black businesses, but we won't talk about black consumers, even though they're both necessary. We'll talk about personal responsibility, but we won't talk about social responsibility. They're both necessary. So it's the same in the way we talk about all of these things that we got going on. Like we'll talk about having pride, but we won't talk about being humble. You know, like there are two sides to every coin, and we need a balanced approach in order to get where we're going. And right now we have these favorite cliches, these favorite little sayings that we love to speak to and talk about that beat on one side of the coin, and we never flip the side over to see, you know, well, we've been hammering on this on the face of the quarter for so long. What's going on the back of it? You know what I'm saying? Like what's happening back here?
Right.
So that, you know, I get frustrated a lot with a lot of the things that are going on, especially nowadays. You know, like when I talk about, even when I talk about consciousness, you know, in my opinion, the goal of the conscious is to make the unconscious aware of the fact that they're not conscious. From that point forward, it's their responsibility to gain the knowledge. But in being conscious, you're also conscious of the fact that you don't know everything. You're not conscious about everything. You're
That's
still
right.
asleep in some ways too. All of us are half awake, half asleep. Every
Mhm.
last single one of us. I don't care how much you've read or studied. There is something out there that you are completely ignorant to. We're
Mhm.
all sleepwalking in one way or another. And until we can be okay with that and accept that, and then begin to accept the fact that Delatry's 21 years old, he can teach me something. I
Mhm.
don't care how old I am. I could be 82 years old. This young man has read something that I haven't read. He's gotten something that I haven't gotten. He's experienced something that I haven't experienced. And he's able to teach me something. However small it might be, I can learn something from him. And just accepting that begins to change your whole perspective on the world. And as a collective, as a community, we need to begin to do that to each other. I'm done.
And to build on top of that, that's a great, excellent point. And to build on top of that, in order to strategize, I mean, really do some strategy, you have to be able to you have to be uh, receptive to learning those little details, um, from any and all sources for the most part. So that's a good point, and that's something that, when we talk about our frustration, the biggest frustration to me is that we're not using any strategy whatsoever to move us or progress us forward. There is nothing strategic about Dr. Umar's response. There's nothing strategic about the attack. There's
Nope.
nothing. There's nothing there that we can use, to further our movement. So
The man.
why, you know? What I'm saying?
Uh-oh, Delatry. Get him, Delatry.
I mean, that's what he is, Joseph. He's he's an a-hole. He has nothing to offer. He has no mental faculties whatsoever that I can benefit from. None.
Hey man, like that, yeah, all of everything, the video Sarnetta did about Sarah Sutton and young Pharaoh was unnecessary. Their letter to him asking for the funds was unnecessary. The responses was unnecessary. The retaliations was unnecessary. Everything that happened from beginning to end. Every matter of fact, and we're not even talking about the new stuff, all the old stuff, all the beef. Like this, are y'all lecturers or rappers? Are y'all educators or rappers? We never saw Dr. Clark and Dr. Ben beefing. And if they had beef, I'm sure they handled it behind closed doors because we don't know about it.
Exactly.
So what's our problem? What's our problem these days? What's our problems?
And
Like why can't we handle our beef behind closed doors? We're so sloppy with it. Like white supremacy is winning.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right, because we're doing the job, like you said before, we're doing the job for them, in terms of dividing ourselves and creating an environment for with many holes in the armor. So we could get attacked from so many different fronts. But even as a person who dabbles in strategy myself, mainly business strategy, I do recognize that we could use this to our advantage in a way, but that's a conversation not for
Right.
for
Nah,
this
I get
arena.
you.
Okay.
I get, but think about this. Like, think about this. Imagine watching a movie, right? Or watching something live that's live going down. You see two dudes that's about to fight, like, right? And the 10 dudes surround the two dudes and they closing in, and the two dudes are back to back because they're trying to protect themselves. And then the two dudes just start arguing with each other and just start fighting each other. And you watching this and you looking like, man, what is going on? You looking like, this is stupid. What's going on? Like, they supposed to be protecting themselves, and they start fighting, and then but them two fighting each other don't stop the 10 dudes from jumping on them. So while they're fighting each other, they're getting jumped by 10 dudes. Like, that will be like the stupidest fight you've ever seen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's what's going on right now. That's what we're doing right now. That's exactly what we're doing right now. We fighting ourselves while we getting jumped by white supremacists.
And then we calling the crowd to the fight. You know, meet me on the playground at 3 p.m. And you know, we calling a bunch of people out there so they can witness it, and you know, drive all our energy to that, talk about it for a few days, and then in the meantime, you know, boom, police get protected class.
Mm. But you know, the sad part is that it's not something that we can ignore. Like, it's something that we can ignore to an extent where obviously we don't want everybody to go looking up whatever and, you know, drawing and encouraging. But at the same time, like we were saying earlier before, you know, we went live, like, we have to pay a tax.
Pat, you muted yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We have to pay a tax. Nowadays, whenever you hear somebody say pro-black, they think about the conscious community and the militant aspects and this, that, and the third. Not that there's anything wrong with militancy, but there is a lot wrong with being associated with a community of WWE lookalikes. You know, especially when you're trying to do serious business and get down to serious work. We don't necessarily have time for us to consciously be having to pay a tax every time we want to engage the community, for us to constantly be having to overcome the image that's been put forth by the giants of the WWF. You know what I'm saying? We don't have time to constantly be having to fight that battle. But that's what we're constantly having to do, because these people get in these positions, they get famous, they get some fans, they get some stardom, they get a following, they make a mess. We have honest intentions, but we're associated with that mess. And now we have to persuade people to believe that we're not them just to gain traction. So, like, nobody's even thinking about the tax and the damage that they're doing to the community as a whole. Just by, like, if you really are, and this is going to be one of the only times I'm going to isolate somebody, but if you really are the prince of Pan-Africanism and you come out of your face the way you do, that affects everybody associated with the Pan-African movement. You have to be aware of that. If you call yourself a leader, you have to be cognizant of that. You have to be responsible enough with your words and your image, and you have to care enough about everybody that your actions affect to not go into any kind of foolishness. And that's where we get into, our leaders also have to be emotionally stable adults. We can't have people that are loose cannons. You heard it all the time about Donald Trump. He's too much of a loose cannon to be president. Okay, well, look, it's the same thing in the black community when it comes to our cultural, our social designees. I'm not even gonna call them leaders anymore. They're just designees. That's what we have to have, that same approach with them. If you are emotionally unstable, if somebody attacking you is going to prompt you to get in front of potentially the entire world and lash out on this rant that completely destroys your character and credibility as a black male role model, you need to step down from your post until you're able to handle that pressure. You need to have friends around you that are going to be like, nah, this ain't a good look. Let's cut this off. You need to have somebody you can call,
Right,
to vent and get all that out.
You know, we're talking about that, and that's very real. But I know that everybody here can relate to this struggle, this movement, and in that respect, how many leaders can remain in this movement and maintain a healthy mental capacity?
Well, that's hard. That's hard for a lot of different reasons. One of the things I can't fathom is I don't have thousands of or tens of thousands of hate mail or inboxes coming towards me. So I don't really know what that's like to deal with that. And you know, as we've seen, there's a breaking point. Everybody has a breaking point in terms of dealing with those things. So I'm not going to try to pretend to know what that's like. But what I do know is that as a people, we are far too emotionally attached. Emotion itself plays too big a role in everything we do. We think that I just left a training, and because there were some topics that were brought up during the training, the responses by my colleagues that were in the training, the responses were emotionally attached. The responses were emotionally attached in terms of people's feelings in regards to whatever they're dealing with. There was an emotional attachment to them, and therefore, when the people within those particular, when the subject touched their particular issue or touched their particular topic of discussion, even or any form of actually acknowledging that there's another part of this that I'm not considering, went out the window. So, and then when you get into the fact that our culture now brags on pettiness, that there's a pettiness to our culture that people are embracing now. So you have people who dine and acknowledge being petty. This is their calling card. And in regards to them being petty, in regards to their calling card, now you add that to the mix, so you're emotional and you have an incline to be petty, or you're inclined to be petty, and and now you're in front of thousands of people, perhaps even millions. There comes, all those things come into play when you're talking about the mindset of a person who puts themselves in those positions. I personally can't speak for any of them, but what I will say is that I don't go after anybody publicly. I think I've made myself clear on that many times. I don't think that it's a good policy for us to go after anybody in our community who is seen as a public figure publicly, because what you're going to do is exacerbate the splintered mindset and the splintered divisiveness that we're already seeing. You're not healing it, you're driving a wedge into it. You're widening the gaps. And when we start doing that, we don't realize that for some situations, there's no coming back from. There's certain situations when you fracture the situation because the people know. The people, like I said, petty. So the people are not necessarily thinking from a mature mindset of this is just a disagreement between two factions. They're thinking, I'm riding with Team Umar. I'm riding with Team whoever. I'm riding with Team Tariq. I'm riding, I'm riding with Zaneto on this one. I'm riding with Seti on this one. Instead of saying to yourself, well, these are grown-ass men having a debate, or these are grown people having a dispute. Well, let's look at, let's eat the fish whole and spit out the bones. And that part is missing from our community. And we talked about it before. An emotional maturity is missing in our community, and we take a chance because we become part of that when we start jumping in and engaging in it. We become part of that folly. We lose all credibility in terms of saying, we're not about that, and we don't do those things. When we do those things, when we respond to those things, when we start engaging in the name calling, when we start engaging in those things, public praise, private execution is eventually how we'll be able to wait a lot of this stuff out, because people are getting tired of all that. They're getting tired of the circus. And they're looking for somebody who's totally not engaged in the circus. But you can't you're not engaged in the circus when you're buying tickets by, name calling. So, that's, and like I said, it's all perception. And the perception becomes reality in our community far more often than it needs to. And with that said, we have to start being more calculated with our words and our movements so that we can address those things, because you got to understand there are people out there who just want the name. They want to be that guy. They want to be that chick. They want to be that dude. And like I said in the chat earlier, when you got to constantly tell people that you are this or you're that, that means, honestly speaking, maybe you don't even believe you're this or that, because you have to keep reminding people of that. If that was truly who you are, you wouldn't have to remind people of shit, because they would already know who you are. When I go places, they're like, oh, that's the brother from Philly. I don't have to remind them I'm from Philly. I don't have to even engage in that conversation, But, the bottom line is, when you feel the need to continuously pronounce yourself as something, the people start to see through you. And then you let the people do that. You don't have to, engage in none of that, because eventually the people are going to be the judge, jury, and execution of all these movements, of all these figures. And, so why engage in the circus when we're not part of any circus act? That's all I'm saying.
I agree. I definitely don't think we should engage in it in terms of having full out on blanc, he said, she said dialogue about it. But I think in terms of what we're doing right now, like when I speak at this point, I'm not speaking to those people. I'm speaking to any young people that might stumble across this and find it interesting enough to watch it all the way through. You know what I'm saying? Definitely, I don't know what it's like to have thousands of people, but I can honestly say I know what it's like to have hundreds of people sending me hate mail every day. And I can honestly say that. And at the same time, I can honestly say that as somebody that has accepted my position, but at the same time, I'm prepared in case another position is the position I end up in. I have things set up so that if I need to vent, if I need to go off, whatever, I have avenues set up to do that in private. I can call any one of y'all on this line and go the fuck off and not have to worry about it being live streamed to YouTube or right. Google Plus or anything like that. So I think it's nice. And if we were in an emotionally mature place as a community, then maybe we could have leaders that wore their heart on their sleeves. But as it stands right now, you got to accept where the community is for where it is right now, not where we want it to be in terms of working within the community. And that means that when you accept a position or when you seek, because 9 times out of 10, a lot of the people we have in these positions now, they aren't even people that have accepted these positions reluctantly. These are people that went looking for these positions, and they were lucky enough. And I say lucky because, there is a component of luck involved in all of this. Some people work hard as hell. They do videos, they do everything right. Nobody ever knows their name. Another person is born on March 3rd and everybody knows who they is just for that. You know, you can't call it. Sometimes things, the stars just align. But most of these people went looking for these positions. And with that being said, now that they're in these positions, you have to accept a certain level of responsibility when you become the leader of a large group of people. That's, you know, even whether you're at work, in the community, on the sports team, no matter what, when you get into a position where everybody else is looking up to you, you're not allowed to be a normal regular person anymore. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. You lose that luxury. That's the luxury of quote unquote peons. If you don't want to be a peon, you can't claim peonage rights. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have privacy when you become an entertainer. Your life is public. Accept it. You get paid millions of dollars to be harassed and frustrated all the time. Gotta take the good with the bad. When you become a leader, and a lot of people, or when a lot of people begin to look up to you, you gotta accept that for what it is. You can no longer just go out into public and say whatever and cuss people out and do whatever you want. You can no longer do that. The way our culture works right now, the world over, you can't do it. You accept the level of responsibility for the people. And so that's, again, we have to have people that have studied leadership, studied culture, studied sociology, studied all these things enough to be able to understand those concepts. When you get out there in the limelight, you have to like, I oftentimes say Joe has Tourette's. Yeah, he don't really have Tourette's, but Joe is prone to saying some crazy shit. I've never heard Joe say anything crazy as hell in his lectures, because he understands that when I'm standing up here in front of these people, I can't just be using the same random ass, crazy ass things that I say when I'm on the phone with Pat and the professor and Delatry and Monique. I gotta do things a little bit differently because I have an image I'm trying to project. I have a culture that I'm trying to develop. I have things that I'm trying to get accomplished. And so if I just said some crazy, random, off the wall shit right now, it would negatively impact all of that. When you get into a position of leadership, you have to understand that. That's all I'm saying.
I definitely recognize that. That's why my role is always going to be relegated to contributor, because I have gotten to a stage and point where I'm probably going to say what I want to say when I want to say it and how I want to say it. And I recognize that. So I'm recognizing my level, staying in my lane, and I will always contribute and support the movement in that way. And I also don't have any problem personally getting behind a well thought out strategic message. Meaning, if we do as an organization, as a group that I belong to, have to make a collective statement regarding especially external issues that affect the Black community, then I will stand behind that message. Once it's said, once it's put out or distributed or published, there's no reason for me to chime in anywhere else in regards to that, because we're putting out a collective message. I know that may seem like it's in contrast to, well, are you a follower? If you're following Dr. Umar, if you're following some of the other individuals, and they put out something like this, and you ride for them, shouldn't you have to, get they back and say, yeah, I ride for this person? And that's not necessarily always needed, and it's also an indicator of the type of leadership that you are following. If you got an individual who is constantly having to remind everybody that they're a leader and that they're this and that, then you have followers who have to constantly remind everybody, I'm riding for this person. And that's just not the that's not the type of pyramid that you should be trying to of leadership that you should be trying to build. In fact, that's a very good point in regards to leadership itself. Whatever type of leadership you're under, or whatever type of leadership that you're following, whatever that person is disseminating, you're following along with that, and you have to do and like. So be careful, you know what I'm saying, to people, you know, who you decide to follow, and make sure that their message is in line with your own character and things of that nature, integrity, that kind of thing. But most importantly, don't step on that leadership. Don't talk about it publicly. Be able to have the ability to move away from a situation without trying to crumble it, and make your own wave somewhere else, maybe better, because we all can stand and learn from situations, good or bad. And so I hope that we are learning from this situation, as we've had many examples in the Black community of how not to do things. But most importantly, we should be learning from those and strategizing going forward.
You know, Monique, I want to say one more thing real quick, Joe, and I'm gonna shut up. I do think to go back to marry what I just said to what I was saying earlier, we do have to begin to put people in their places, in their lanes, in their roles, and accept them there. Certain people that have been given a leadership designation are not leaders, and that's something we've all said at some point. Some people are just good educators. Some people have good information. And so, we're running into these issues again because we've misdesignated people. You know what I'm saying? So somebody has great information, like the professor always says, eat the fish and spit out the bones. That's what that's what we need to be doing with the vast majority of these people. And a lot of the people right now that are arguing and having fights and this, that, and the third, they have good information, but they're not necessarily leaders, as is being broadcasted and showcased by their current and past activities.
Right. Another aspect of that, and I truly agree with that. And I think that one thing we can do is, as an organization that stands for Black empowerment and stands for bringing the community together, is we can put out a message, basically, just telling these brothers and sisters, stop with this public bashing, stop with these unscripted or unsolicited emotional outbursts, and to start having counsel behind closed doors. All these brothers and sisters have contact information. It's public. Everybody knows who can be reached, when they can be reached, and how they can be reached. So,
right.
For them to be consistently handling this is, first of all, cowardice, because you're doing this on social media, and basically what you're saying is, I wouldn't say this to your face, so I'm going to say this on social media. And another thing we need to, start addressing and focusing on with a lot of these cats is we need to, just like what you were just saying, Patrick, take the meat, spit out the bone. We're at a point right now in our current history where this is dangerous. This is dangerous because it reveals how unorganized we are as a community. This is what we consider leadership. They're having, grown men having cat fights. These are things that present a sort of disenfranchised, a picture of a disenfranchised community that has no hope. Because, the people who are supposed to be the brain, the people who are supposed to be the ones out there, putting the mandates out there for the community, they can't even get along long enough to have a video chat. So, this stuff needs to be done because, like I said before, it's petty. And in addition to being petty, with what's happening out there with those brothers and sisters, I think that we're we're creating an environment that that allows for us to continuously be butchered in the street and disenfranchised and to be marginalized more and more as a people throughout society. You know, on the begging end of all of the different things that we need to be doing. So I can't talk for too long. As y'all can see, I've been driving around acting crazy out here. You know, I've been driving around acting crazy, but I pulled over in the parking lot so I could just, you know, throw my little 2 cents in there. So, but I'll be on, but I'm in the background, so I'm doing things.
All right, we got you. So that definitely speaks to the type of leadership we would like to see come about. Also, grooming leadership. You know, we should all have mentors, and we should all be mentoring. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that that's coming out of this discussion tonight about that. And we should all want to have some level of mastery of certain aspects of the movement, you know, and you know, as you have a mentor, so you will you know, be a derivative of that. You will bring that
Right.
same type of mentorship to someone else. So it's important. It's important. We used to do that, you know, in our communities. We still do it to some degree, but we do practice a lot of individualism in the Black community in terms of knowledge and information as well. So, you know, that's something that, you know, as we put these social codes out, as we talk about where we see social engineering violations, we hope that the impact of that is far more ranging. This is not just about putting out a bunch of rules and guidelines for people to follow, you know, but also not just for following, but to grow from. You know, we are planting some seeds here, and we expect to come to harvest. You know, we expect to, you know, create some really positive changes within the Black community. When we say what goes on in the Black community stays in the Black community, we expect positive. If you look at these rules, these social codes, and you see anything negative, then that speaks to how we need to move away from some of the European indoctrination and conditioning that everything that we're doing will have some type of negative impact on us. No, that's not the case. We truly want to create a change that creates progress or generates progress. So Vegas rule, the crack in the concrete, know yourself, the affirmations, everything. Those are all things being put into place so that we can move forward as a collective community and start strategizing and doing things in the community. So it's about that time we pay the bills. And by pay the bills, I mean support some of the projects that we have going on. Big ups to Joe for his release of On the Shoulders
Oh
of
yeah.
Giants app. He launched the app Christmas Day. It was great. Go check that out. On the Shoulders One. Follow him on Instagram. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Follow me on Instagram on the Shoulders One. On the shoulders1.com. Get the app. $24.99 for an app that comes with 500 questions. With over 500 questions, 100 quizzes, 100 profiles, an app that's going to be updated on a regular. Copy of my book, On the Shoulders of Giants, Volume 1, North America, where I profile 10 sung, unsung heroes who have contributed greatly to the progress of the African diaspora here in North America, including Canada, United States, and Mexico. Go check it out.
Absolutely. And y'all don't forget about Joe. and we also have the Independence Day project that's coming to everybody real soon here, and that is a shared vision of what an independent Black community would look like. We have some real nice contributions for the Independence Day project. Please get behind that. Please continue to go to support that. Check for the Facebook post to update you on what's going on with the Independence Day project, and get involved. This is it. Everybody really continues to ask, what can I do? What can I? If you don't want me talking about this, if you don't want me to keep being conditioned, what should I do? You should get out there and look for a project that will positively impact the Black community, period. There's no question to it. And the Independence Day Project does that for us. Become a member of Pact. That does it. Knowing your history on the shoulders of giants, that does it as well. Go ahead.
Hold on. Now, we got to send them to these websites.
All right. Let's
so for the Independence Day Project, make sure you visit www.whataboutus.com. www.wautaboutus website, so you can support the Independence Day Project. Like as you said, it's Professor Carl Tones Jones' vision of what an independent Black community look like. And no, we're not talking about Black Wall Street, because Black Wall Street was a step towards a totally independent Black community, but we're talking about a fully independent Black community. For Pact Inc., organization Pact Inc., you can go to www.pactinc.org, PACTSINC.org, to learn more about Pact Inc. And therefore, we talked about our codes of conduct. And the main code we covered today was our Vegas rule, which is the first rule. So if you want to learn more about the codes, make sure you visit www.pactinc.org. Also, we have the Latry's organization, Association for the Preservation of African American History and Culture, where he spends his time fighting to preserve African American historic landmarks throughout the nation. And to support that project, like she said, if you want to get involved, we're giving you these websites of things you get involved with. Absolutely. So go to www.preservation.org. That's blackpreservation.org to learn more about all the NAPAC, so the National Association for the Preservation of African American History and Culture. If you don't want to say all that, say NAPAC. So to support NAPAC, go to www.blackpreservation.org. Freedom Train. As along with Jamie Bouchon, we host the Freedom Train podcast series. So we interview great people throughout the African diaspora, throughout the world. Have social discussion shows kind of like this, where we discuss the issues and what's going on in Black America and how we can do better as African Americans. Last one come to mind. America, great organization that's working on developing policy for Black America, as well as focus on organizing Black people to be able to move as a collective unit. So when we do right policy, we have the power to make the policy happen. So make sure you go to upblackamerica.com, upblackamerica.com. That's upblackamerica.com. You can learn more about United Peoples of Black America. Am I forgetting anybody, Monique?
Man, you're giving them all. That's it. You know what I'm saying? That's it. Well, that's not all, but listen, those are very positive things that are happening right now. We need you guys to get out there and support. Share this video. Share these videos so that we can, get that support that we so much need within the community to support these projects, because we want to be positive. So you hit it right there. So that's for tonight. Please join us.
One more.
Yep, go ahead, Joe.
One more. www.mindyourblackbusiness.com. www.mindyourblackbusiness.com. Also, www.jewelsforthemind.com. That's JEWES, the number 4, the letter D, minds.com. Jewelsfortheminds.com and www.mindyourblackbusiness.com. Support, 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 support.
All right, y'all can't make any excuses. We giving it to you right there. All right, share this video. Until next time, peace and love.
Peace.